The Kauravas, led by Duryodhana, the eldest among them, were the antagonists in the Mahabharata. While all 100 Kaurava brothers followed Duryodhana, many of their faults can be traced to him, as he was the driving force behind their actions. Here are some of the key faults and negative traits of the Kauravas, particularly Duryodhana. Jealousy and envy. One of Duryodhana's most significant flaws was his intense jealousy of his cousins, the Pandavas, especially Yudhishthira and Bhima. He couldn't tolerate their growing influence, popularity, and the love they received from the elders of the Kuru dynasty. This envy fueled much of his hatred and led to repeated attempts to undermine and destroy the Pandavas. Greed for power. Duryodhana's insatiable desire for power made him incapable of sharing the kingdom with the Pandavas. After the Pandavas had established Indraprastha, their own kingdom, Duryodhana coveted their wealth and the grandeur of their capital. This greed was a driving force behind his actions, and he was unwilling to accept even a peaceful solution of dividing the kingdom. Deception and trickery. The Kauravas, under Duryodhana's leadership, often resorted to deceit to achieve their goals. This includes the dice game. Duryodhana, along with his uncle Shakuni, orchestrated the infamous dice game, which was rigged against Yudhishthira. This game resulted in the Pandavas losing their kingdom, wealth, and even their freedom, ultimately leading to their exile. Poisoning Bhima. In their childhood, Duryodhana tried to poison Bhima to get rid of him, but Bhima survived due to divine intervention. The Wax House Incident. Duryodhana, with Shakuni's counsel, planned to burn the Pandavas alive by inviting them to a palace made of flammable materials, wax. However, the Pandavas escaped the plot. Disrespect towards women. One of the most egregious acts was the humiliation of Draupadi. After Yudhishthira lost everything in the rigged dice game, Duryodhana ordered Draupadi to be brought into the court and humiliated in front of everyone. Dushasana, his brother, tried to disrobe her in a public assembly, an act that deeply outraged the Pandavas and sealed Duryodhana's fate. His disrespect towards Draupadi was one of the most immoral acts in the epic and was heavily condemned by everyone present. Lack of respect for elders and Dharma. Duryodhana disregarded the advice and warnings of elders like Bhishma, Vidura, and Dronacharya, all of whom advised him against unjust actions towards the Pandavas. His stubbornness and arrogance caused him to act against the principles of Dharma, righteousness, which was the foundation of ancient Indian society. Instigation of war. Despite multiple opportunities for reconciliation and peace offered by Lord Krishna and others, Duryodhana's arrogance and thirst for domination led him to reject these proposals. He was adamant about not giving even a small portion of land to the Pandavas, which led to the inevitable outbreak of the Kurukshetra war, causing immense destruction. Injustice and unfair warfare. During the Kurukshetra war, Duryodhana and his allies engaged in several acts of adharma, unjust acts on the battlefield. Killing Abhimanyu unfairly. Abhimanyu, the young son of Arjuna, was trapped in the Chakravyuha, and despite the rules of fair warfare, the Kaurava warriors attacked him together when he was unarmed. Killing of Bhima's son Ghatotkacha. Although Ghatotkacha was a demon, the Kauravas used celestial weapons, which were meant for Arjuna, to kill him. Karna's actions. Although Karna, a close ally of Duryodhana, is often seen as a tragic hero, his loyalty to Duryodhana made him complicit in unjust actions, including the humiliation of Draupadi and the killing of Abhimanyu. Blind ambition and arrogance. Duryodhana's ambition was boundless, and he was excessively proud of his power and influence. His arrogance made him believe that he could defy Dharma and still succeed. This arrogance not only brought about his downfall, but also the destruction of the Kaurava dynasty. Instigation by Shakuni. Duryodhana was heavily influenced by his uncle, Shakuni, whose sole aim was to destroy the Kuru dynasty due to personal vengeance. Though Shakuni manipulated events behind the scenes, Duryodhana allowed himself to be influenced and acted on Shakuni's malicious advice, showing his weakness in judgment. Yudhishthira's gambling addiction. Yudhishthira, the eldest Pandava, was known for his strict adherence to Dharma, but his greatest flaw was his inability to refuse the dice game. Despite knowing the treacherous nature of the game, he was swayed into playing by Duryodhana and Shakuni. Risking his kingdom and brothers, Yudhishthira recklessly wagered his kingdom, wealth, brothers, and even his wife, Draupadi, in the rigged dice game. This gambling addiction led to the Pandavas losing everything and being forced into exile for 13 years. Lack of resistance to manipulation. Despite Vidura and other elders warning him, Yudhishthira was unable to control his vice for gambling. His inability to resist Shakuni's manipulation resulted in great suffering for his family and himself. Draupadi's public insult of Karna. During Draupadi's Swayamvara, her marriage contest, she insulted Karna by calling him a Sutaputra, son of a charioteer, which implied that he was of a lower caste and unworthy of participating in the contest. This comment deeply hurt Karna, fueling his animosity towards the Pandavas, especially Draupadi. While this insult might be attributed to Draupadi's pride, it was the Pandavas' silence during this incident that also raises moral questions. Killing of Karna. The killing of Karna during the Kurukshetra war, while technically within the rules of warfare, is seen as morally questionable. Karna's helplessness. Karna's chariot wheel got stuck in the ground during his fight with Arjuna, and he was unarmed while trying to free it. Despite knowing this, Arjuna, at Krishna's urging, shot Karna, killing him when he was vulnerable. This violated the traditional code of fair warfare, which dictated that one should not kill an unarmed opponent. Revealing Karna's lineage too late. Yudhishthira and Arjuna only learned that Karna was their elder brother after his death, and their regret was profound. The Pandavas' failure to acknowledge Karna as family earlier, due to their ignorance, contributed to the tragic circumstances of his life and death. Killing of Bhishma. Bhishma, the revered elder of both the Pandavas and Kauravas, was bound by his vow to fight for Duryodhana. The Pandavas, especially Arjuna, were reluctant to fight him. However, under Krishna's guidance, they used a strategy to place Shikhandi, the reincarnation of Amba, whom Bhishma had wronged in a past life, in front of Arjuna during the battle. Using Shikhandi. Since Bhishma refused to fight a woman or someone who had been born female, the Pandavas exploited this to attack him. Although Bhishma allowed it, the tactic is seen as morally complex, as it took advantage of Bhishma's personal code rather than defeating him directly. Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas, abandoned Karna at birth because he was born out of wedlock. The Pandavas only learned about their brotherhood after Karna's death, leading to a tragic missed opportunity for reconciliation. Inconsistencies in war ethics. Several incidents during the Kurukshetra war, like the killing of Karna, Bhishma, and Duryodhana, involved bending the rules of war. Arjuna's hesitation at the start of the war. Arjuna's initial refusal to fight his own relatives, though understandable, showed a momentary lapse in his resolve to follow his warrior dharma, which had to be corrected by Krishna in the form of the Bhagavad Gita discourse. Conclusion. The Kauravas, especially Duryodhana, embodied the flaws of jealousy, greed, disrespect for women, and disregard for elders and dharma. Their actions ultimately led to their downfall and the massive destruction of the Kurukshetra war. While the Mahabharata portrays them as complex characters, their faults highlight the consequences of unchecked ambition, greed, and pride. The Pandavas, though largely portrayed as heroes in the Mahabharata, were not without their faults. Like all humans, they too had their moments of weakness, moral ambiguity, and questionable decisions. While their overall adherence to Dharma is emphasized, there are certain actions and flaws that cast a shadow on their character. Here are some of the key faults of the Pandavas. The Pandavas, though largely righteous and moral, were not without their flaws. From Yudhishthira's gambling to Bhima's thirst for revenge, their actions often involved moral ambiguity. While they followed Dharma to a large extent, they also bent the rules in certain situations, especially during the Kurukshetra war. Their faults remind us that even heroes in epic tales are complex, with shades of both virtue and vice.